This is Fun 22 Long Rifle Revolvers. H&R Premier 22 Long Rifle, 7th version.
The crew and I are out here at Daryl's indoor shooting range. We are taking a look at what could be the greatest 22 pistol, or I should say revolver, next to the H&R Defender. That's right, another H&R revolver. This one is the H&R Premier in 22 caliber. This is a 7-shot, small frame revolver, and it does do the auto eject break top action, very similar to our H&R Defender. Let's put it to the test today and see if it functions. I am going to start with the lowest velocity ammo that I brought today, which is CCI Quiet 22. This has an advertised velocity on the box of something like 710 feet per second. So it shouldn't be too spicy. And if the gun functions, well, we'll cross our fingers and find out. Here we go. I am going to start with a couple single action tries. Here we go. I have our target set up just at 5 yards for this first test here. Hey, no hits on our target. Let me aim up a little bit. Okay, well, the gun is firing. As far as where those bullets are going, currently I have no idea. Okay, oh, this one, we have one more to fire. I miscounted. Here we go. Let me try a different ammo here other than this CCI Quiet and see if maybe we can put a hit on our target. This time I will try the shorts, the CCI Short 22. Now on paper, these CCI Shorts have a little, or I should say quite a bit more velocity in the 1100 feet per second range compared to those CCI Quiet. Here we go. I think I saw the... Okay, I put a hit on the paper that time. Let me aim a little lower. Okay, I think I might have been shooting high. Yeah, I'm hitting the paper, the clothespin. Okay. So I might have been shooting high. I need to... Uh-oh.
It's not a bad group, it's just high. It may not have been cleaned in 100 years.
I think these little pieces of brass expanded enough to make it difficult to pop them out. It's like a little to the left, but on the paper. That one I'm not sure. You hit the clothespin.
Hit where?
You hit the clothespin.
I did.
Yeah. At the bottom of it. At the very bottom of it you hit. Just above the bullseye. Maybe a little high, but on the paper. Just above the bullseye in the 9 ring.
Oh yeah, that worked good.
Yeah.
That wasn't bad.
Did you do any with the double action trigger or all single
It
action?
was all single action. I was just trying to figure out where it was hitting.
The H&R Premier 22 Rimfire has an overall length of 7 inches, height of 4 inches, width of 1.12 inches, and weighs in at 13 ounces unloaded. The version of the revolver that we're shooting today has the 3.1 inch barrel. This firearm has a 7-shot capacity. It is external hammer fired with a double action, single action trigger. There is no external safety on the firearm, and for sights, it has a half-moon front blade with a notch rear. The H&R Premier was introduced way back in 1895 and was produced by H&R until 1941. There are at least 10 different versions of this revolver. It's a small frame revolver with one of its defining characteristics being the automatic shell ejection. There was a 5-shot 32 Smith & Wesson version of this revolver available. Both were available with either a nickel or a blued finish. It has a steel frame and barrel. While you can get it, as shown here, with the nickel finish, even on the nickel finish version, the trigger guard, trigger, and hammer have the blued finish. It came stock with the hard rubber grips, though you could also upgrade those grips as well. One interesting note is you can see the sear in the trigger guard behind the trigger, as well as the firing pin is integrated with the hammer on the revolver. The Premier we're shooting in today's video is the 7th version of this revolver. We're not going to cover all the different versions and just keep it to the 7th version. The 7th version is notable because it has the new frame, which has a grip frame that is the same width as the rest of the firearm, and there's no step-down area for the grips. It also has the redesigned grips. The patent dates were removed from the wording at the top of the barrel, as well as the model number is now listed on the left side of the barrel with the caliber 22 rimfire on the right side of the barrel. Let's take a closer look at some of the features, starting with the sights on the firearm. Here you can see that half-moon front blade sight and the notch for the rear sight that is integrated into the locking latch for that break top action. They combine for a sight picture that has some of, if not the smallest sights that I've seen on a revolver that come to mind anyway. Here you can see the cylinder of the Premier. When the break top action is opened, the ejector extends out of the center of the cylinder, ejecting the brass from the chambers of that cylinder. And you can also see here the firearm with that break top action opened. The hammer on the H&R Premier, unlike the hammers on modern 22 revolvers, here you can see that the firing pin is integrated in with that hammer. The firing pin is going to extend through the frame, hit the rim of your rimfire cartridge when the trigger is pulled to set off that round. With how the firing pin is set up on this revolver, you certainly would not want to dry fire this firearm. Besides potentially breaking your firing pin, you could also damage your face of your cylinder. You could see actually in the previous slide where there are a few marks where somebody did dry fire this revolver and the beginnings of peening on that cylinder is taking place. The double action trigger on the H&R Premier, it's a fairly long trigger pull that's, while not nearly as aggressive as modern 22 trigger pulls, I would say it's not quite as light in the trigger pull weight as something like our Defender is. Single action is also pretty good, though again a little heavier than on our H&R Defender. And another interesting feature you can see on this revolver is the sear that drops the hammer is actually visible at the behind the trigger in that trigger guard. The H&R Premier was available with either a 3-inch, a 4-inch, or a 5-inch barrel. We're shooting the 3-inch barreled model here today. On the right side of that barrel, on our 7th version, it's marked 22 rimfire. You might be wondering, what did H&R mean by 22 rimfire? Well, luckily they spelled it out in their advertising. This revolver can safely shoot 22 short, 22 long, and 22 long rifle. I probably wouldn't, at least for my personal firearm here, shoot the spicy 22 like something like CCI Stanger, though all the way up to something like, say, CCI Mini Mag, I'd probably fire through this revolver without worry. Moving down to the grips on the firearm, the grip is one area where that small frame label on the revolver is most apparent. Especially in the hand, the grips on this revolver feel very small. In addition to helping make this revolver very concealable for being a concealed carry firearm in its day, I imagine many people also used it as a training firearm to get their children or even say their significant other practice with a firearm before they stepped up to what we'll call a larger frame centerfire firearm. One more interesting note about these revolvers were, back when they were originally available, in addition to being able to choose your finish, your grips, you could even choose to have a holster included with your firearm. And here we can see an example of the leather flap holster that you could have bought along with your H&R Premier. The snap on this holster still works, though I'm not sure if you would have originally just fed your belt through the slits on the holster, or if maybe there was some type of metal belt attachment piece that is now lost to time. It looks like there was something previously attached to the back of this holster. What that may have been, I'm not sure.
Okay, we have seen so far that the CCI Quiet works pretty well out of this little H&R Premier. The CCI shorts that I brought, while they function, the brass seems to expand such that it gives the eject mechanism some difficulty, so we probably won't shoot any more of that today. But now we're going to shoot another bit of what I would call lower velocity ammo, some Winchester super suppressed. Let's see how that functions out of our H&R Premier. Here we go. Best shot of the day, bullseye right there. That ammo seems to be a little dirty, but we put some holes on paper. And I would say it's also expanding a little bit much to where it's a little stiff to get out of the cylinders.
You know, there could be a little gunk in those cylinders too.
That's what I was just thinking, is maybe the previous owner shot a lot of shorts.
Yeah.
And there's like a ring in there.
Yeah.
That might actually be what it is if you look down. So it might be a case where the previous owner was shooting a lot of lower velocity shorts. And that as this brass expands, it gets a little in there, a little tighter than it would have previously.
Unfortunately, we may have to clean that gun.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to shoot more of the super suppressed with how it gets stuck in there.
Yeah.
Should we? Let's try this. I'll let you try the CCI Long, which is also a subsonic ammo. We'll see how that goes.
Let me try it.
Yeah, go ahead. I put one almost dead center in the bullseye.
Yeah, and then the two shots, it looks like one shot to, about an inch to the right, but it's actually two.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to put a fresh target out there for you?
No, I'll just put them all in the red.
Okay. We've got them all on the paper, and I think all of them might be in the 9 range. Okay, so that ammo...
That ejected right.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to try to find, is some more of the subsonic 22 long.
I bet if you take a wire bristle on the cylinder, that'll take care of it.
So I bet it'll help.
Yeah.
With Harrington and Richardson Arms Co. being a firearms company that, for all intents and purposes, has been lost to time, I thought we'd spend a moment now at least covering the high points on the history. Harrington and Richardson manufactured firearms between 1871 and 1986. The company started out as Wesson and Harrington in 1781. It was founded by Frank Wesson and Gilbert Harrington. Harrington invented and patented a auto-ejecting revolver design. He was also the nephew of Daniel and Frank Wesson. In 1874, Harrington bought out Frank Wesson's share in the company, and in 1875, he partnered with William Richardson to form the Harrington and Richardson Firearms Company. In the 1880s, they developed a cartridge known as the 32 H&R, which was a black powder cartridge, and about 100 years later, they partnered with Federal Cartridge Company to develop the 32 H&R Magnum. That's sort of coming back around slightly in the 2020s world now. During World War I, H&R manufactured flare guns for the military, and in World War II, that expanded to multiple firearms that were used by the military. Unfortunately, the original Harrington and Richardson Arms Co. went out of business in 1986. The name, at least as a brand name, was briefly brought back for a time in the 90s, and I think now it's one of the products under the PSA brand. Modern shooters probably look at something like the Premier 22 and think it was just sold as a fun plinking firearm. However, I don't think that's the case, and I don't think we need to look much farther than an H&R ad for their automatic revolver, which was a very similar design, to get an idea of how this firearm was actually sold. Looking at the ad for their auto-ejecting revolver, we can see that they say, "We have no hesitation in saying this is one of the most powerful and effective weapons made. It has several very desirable features that can be fired only by pulling the trigger. Thus, the shots can be fired rapidly and in quick succession, almost as fast as you could count, offering no obstacle to instant firing. This makes it ideal weapon for expressmen, bank agents, payroll clerks, automobilists, and all others where quick action is so absolutely essential in emergency. The revolver can be aimed and fired at once. The hammer does not have to be pulled back. Immediate sight can be obtained. That is necessary in quick shooting." Looking at a H&R Premier ad specifically, we can see there they state, "Due to the outside hammer, it may be fired either double or single action, and on account of its small size and lightweight, it may be easily carried in the pocket." So it is very much a pocket revolver.
So far, we've put, probably 27, 28 shots through our H&R Premier. How do you think our new to us revolver is functioning so far?
Well, it has no recoil. It functioned perfectly. It is 85 years old, and I think it's loosened up a little bit. I think it probably would benefit from a good cleaning of the cylinders, but it functioned perfectly for a gun that's more than 85 years old. It's fun to shoot. I think it was well worth the price that we paid. I think it's a good plinker.
How do you think the trigger compares to modern 22 revolvers?
It reminds me of my H&R New Defender that we've shot. That honestly, they have much better triggers than new 22 revolvers, and I don't know if that's where or whether or not it was made that way or a combination of the two. It was probably comes from a time where manufacturers weren't quite as concerned about setting trigger pull as an additional safety.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Yeah.
I thought it felt similar to the H&R Defender, not quite as smooth or light, but still much lighter than modern 22 revolvers are.
And with the ammo that we shot today, I honestly thought the recoil was negligible.
Yeah, I thought none.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find us more of the subsonic 22 long ammo, because it seemed like it functioned well with that, and then the eject functioned the best with that so far.
Yeah, but overall, I think, gosh, for going by a gun store and finding it for the price that you got it for, it was well worth it.
Yeah. Some would say it's a better, higher quality 22 revolver than the Heritage Rough Rider style revolvers. Certainly a difference in the quality of materials.
Yeah, and it's smoother.
Yeah.
It's not gritty. So, yeah, I'd buy that gun.
I thought it was a good find.
Yeah.
As a quick comparison for against our H&R Premier 22, I brought along what I think at least some people would consider a 22 long rifle self-defense personal protection revolver, filling that same vein in, shall we say, the 2000s America that the H&R would have filled in the early to mid 1900s. We're going to do an 8-shot cylinder each from this Ruger LCR and 22 long rifle. We're going to use the CCI shorts just because, and we'll do, as I said, an 8-shot cylinder each at our target, just for comparison's sake against that H&R Premier. Here we go. I will save my comments for when we do our target lockdown. Let me have the crew step in now and do their cylinder, and then we'll do a lockdown and comment.
Boy, that was a good group.
A very good group.
Okay, which one were you shooting?
These ones, yeah. There's pretty much no recoil with those little shorts out of that.
Okay.
Your shots were a little below mine. Most of them were at the bottom of the paper.
No, I shot like crap.
Here's a look at our target. My group, of course, I have a lot of double action practice as of late, was pretty good. The crew put their hits a little low, but most of them on the paper.
Well, that gun has great ergonomics. And this is a case where the crew thought he was putting all of his shots in the red, and he wasn't even close. The gun had essentially no recoil whatsoever. The trigger pull is good. It's just a good gun and a bad shooter.
What I noticed going to what we'll call our modern 22 is much better sights on the LCR compared to the new Premier. Though I would say that the new Premier had a much better double action trigger.
That
while the LCRs isn't bad, I think the difference of what we'll call 60 years of gun is apparent in the trigger. And then, of course, that Hogue grip made the LCR more ergonomic in the hand. But of course, little bigger firearm, a bigger rubberized grip should have that effect on a revolver.
Yep, that's a good gun too. Good gun, bad shooter.
I just need a little more practice.
Well, anyway, that seems like the perfect spot to end today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, like it, share it with your friends and family, drop a comment on there. Those things are free, and they really help the channel greatly. If you'd like to help us make more of these videos in the future, look into becoming a member. Fred and I really appreciate you getting this far. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good night.